The galactic throne room of Queen Zyrith of the Vel'Kara Dominion was a cathedral of bioluminescent crystal and living metal. Every surface pulsed faintly, as if the palace itself was breathing. Hundreds of alien dignitaries from conquered worlds stood in reverent silence as the queen entered, a being tall and slender, draped in carapace armor grown from her own body. Her 6 golden eyes scanned the hall with regal indifference. Today was a day of triumph. Another rebellion had been extinguished, another world brought to heel. Or so she thought. The prisoner kneeling at the center of the hall was no ordinary captive. The alien soldiers flanking him were visibly nervous, their mandibles twitching as they held their plasma spears close. The prisoner's armor was charred, the insignia on his chestplate half melted, but the mark was unmistakable. A Terran insignia. The queen's voice was low, melodic, and cruel. A human, she mused, walking slowly around the kneeling figure. I thought your kind had learned to stay within your own corner of the galaxy after the Treaty of Soul. The man raised his head. His face was cut and bruised, but his eyes, those sharp, unyielding human eyes, met hers without fear. I'm not here for treaties, he said, his voice hoarse but steady. I'm here for someone. The court erupted into whispers. The queen lifted a clawed hand, silencing them. And who, little Terran, do you imagine is worth dying for in my palace? The soldier smiled faintly. You'll know when I say his name. The queen tilted her head, amused by the arrogance. Say it then. I could use the entertainment before your execution. The human's lips parted. Sergeant Marcus Hale. The name echoed through the chamber like a ripple through still water. The queen froze. For a moment, an unthinkable moment, Queen Zyrith of the Vel'Kara, conqueror of 12 sectors, destroyer of the Koresh fleets, did not move. Her eyes dilated, her breathing hitched, and the color in her carapace flickered dim. Every creature in the throne room felt the change. The air itself seemed to draw tighter. Who? She whispered, her composure faltering. Who did you say? The man smiled again, despite the blood on his teeth. You heard me. Sergeant Marcus Hale. A sound escaped her, half hiss, half tremor, and she turned abruptly away, the regal calm of moments ago replaced by something the court had never seen before. Fear. The legend of the human soldier. For the Vel'Kara, humans were a minor species. Reckless, emotional, briefly dangerous, but ultimately predictable. They'd fought with ferocity in the early wars, but once the Galactic Accord isolated their region, most considered humanity irrelevant. But the Queen remembered something that most of her kind didn't. Centuries ago, before her ascension, before the Dominion spread to half the galaxy, there had been a war unlike any other. The Siege of Ralith IV. The Vel'Kara had been at the height of expansion, their fleets unstoppable. The Ralith system was a minor trade world under Terran protection. They expected token resistance. Instead they met Marcus Hale. He wasn't a general, not even an officer of high rank. A ground soldier. A man who refused to die. Queen Zyrith, then merely a commander, had led the invasion. She watched him fight from orbit through live tactical feeds. He fought like something ancient, something primal. His unit held a mountain pass for 42 hours against overwhelming odds, using nothing but scavenged weapons, improvised explosives, and sheer defiance. When they ran out of ammunition, they charged the enemy lines with bayonets and bare hands. When orbital bombardments scorched the ground, they dug themselves from ash and fought again. And when the Vel'Kara finally broke through, they found him, half buried in rubble, one arm gone, standing guard over the wounded civilians he refused to abandon. He'd looked into her eyes once, across the battlefield, through the scope of her command drone. And she had seen it. The terrifying, unflinching calm of a species that did not know surrender. He died that day. Or so she thought. But his name. No one had spoken it aloud in over 100 years. The human's mission. The Queen turned sharply to the guards. "Release him," she ordered. "My Queen." One of them stammered. "You heard me." Her voice cracked like a whip, filled with barely controlled emotion. "Unbind him." The bindings hissed open. The human soldier stood slowly, rubbing his wrists. "Now," she said, regaining her composure, "you will tell me exactly why you came here, and why you speak that cursed name." He straightened, the ghost of a smile still on his lips. "Because I was sent by him." Her breath caught again. "Impossible. Marcus Hale is dead." The man shook his head. "That's what you were meant to believe." The court erupted in disbelief. The Queen's claws clenched around her scepter. "You dare play games with me, Terran?" "No games," he said calmly. "He's alive. And he remembers you." Silence. For the first time in centuries, Queen Xyretha's voice trembled. What does he want?" The human's expression hardened. "To finish what you started." The Queen's memory. That night, in the solitude of her private chamber, the Queen dismissed her guards and sat alone before the memory mirror, a living crystal that could replay any past event she had witnessed. She whispered the words that unlocked her oldest memory. The image shimmered into existence. The burning world of Ralith 4. The mountains of flame. The screams of the dying. And there he was, Marcus Hale, covered in soot and blood, rallying his soldiers amid chaos. His voice, hoarse but commanding, cutting through static. "Hold the line. We hold for the civilians. No one gets through." She remembered the final strike, the orbital bombardment she had ordered. She had watched him disappear into the light. But what haunted her wasn't his death. It was the look on his face before he died. He wasn't afraid. He pitied her. Now, a century later, his name returned to haunt her like a curse from the void. She stared into the memory, trembling. "It can't be," she whispered. "He cannot still live." But deep down she wasn't certain. Humans had a way of surviving things they shouldn't. The signal from the void. 2 nights later, the Dominion's deep space sensors picked up something strange. An incoming vessel of unknown class emerging from subspace on the edge of the Vel'Kara system. It bore no official identification, no fleet markers, no transponder. But the encrypted signature that accompanied it was one word, burned in Terran code across the communication bands. "Hale." The Queen's command center erupted into chaos. Her admirals barked orders, her guards armed themselves, and panic rippled through the ranks. No one could explain how a single human vessel had penetrated their outer defenses undetected. "It's a trap," one of her generals hissed. "A Terran deception." But the Queen didn't respond. She stood at the viewport, staring at the distant shimmer of the unknown ship. Her claws dug into the railing. For the first time in her long reign, Queen Xyretha felt the old fear, the same cold knot that had gripped her heart when she first saw the human soldier centuries ago. She turned to her generals. "Prepare my warship. I will meet him myself." The royal warship Eclipsera drifted through the black ocean of the void, its hull alive with biometal veins and throbbing plasma veins. Before it, a single Terran vessel hovered silently, a human frigate, ancient and battle-scarred, its surface marked by centuries of repairs and scars of 1,000 battles. To the Queen's eyes it looked small, insignificant. Yet the sight of it made her stomach twist with something she had not felt in centuries. Dread. "Open a secure channel," she ordered. The comms officer hesitated. My queen, the ship's systems are primitive. They're not responding to Hale's. Then send the signal the old way, she snapped. Moments later, a single pulse of light blinked across the void. An old Terran distress pattern. It was answered immediately. The human soldier who had come to her palace days earlier stepped forward from the shadows of the bridge. His name was Lieutenant Eric Vaughn, one of Hale's last surviving protégés. He stood at her side, silent, watching the monitor. Then a face appeared on the screen. Older. Guard. Half his hair gone. His left cheek marked by a burn that glowed faintly with cybernetic grafts. But the eyes, those were unmistakable. Blue-gray. Steady. Relentless. Queen Zyreth, the man said. His voice carried across the void like the whisper of a storm. The queen's throat went dry. Marcus Hale. He nodded once. You remember. How are you alive? She demanded, her regal tone faltering. I saw you die. I did, he said simply. For a while. The court fell silent. I was buried under 3 kilometers of your bombardment, he continued, his voice calm. But humanity has never been very good at staying dead. The Terran frontier found me years later. Frozen, broken, but alive. The queen's claws curled tight around the armrest of her throne. Why come here now? The Dominion has no quarrel with your people. Humanity keeps to itself. For now, Hale said. But I came not for humanity. I came for you. The soldier's promise. Queen Zyreth rose from her seat. You would threaten me. After all these centuries. I made a promise, Hale said softly. To the civilians you slaughtered on Ralith 4. To the soldiers who followed me. To every race your dominion enslaved. I told them one day, someone would make you answer for it. And you think you are that someone, she hissed. He didn't blink. I know I am. Was. The only sound on the bridge was the faint hum of energy coursing through the ship's veins. The queen gestured sharply to her fleet commander. Target the human vessel. Destroy it. Wait, said Eric Vaughn suddenly. My queen. You should listen to him. Her eyes snapped toward him. You dare interrupt. He's not bluffing, Eric said quietly. You asked why I came here. It wasn't to deliver a message. It was to give you a warning. The queen froze. Warning. The ship he's on, Eric said. It's not a ship. It's a relic. A pre-collapsed Terran dreadnought. Powered by a reactor humans called the Dawn Engine. You fire on it, and it will tear half this sector into a singularity. The queen's composure cracked. You lie. Hale's voice came again, hard as iron. Try me. Choice. For a long, terrible moment no one spoke. The stars outside burned cold and silent. The queen's 6 golden eyes narrowed. You would destroy yourself just to kill me? Hale smiled faintly. If it ends what you built, yes. Zyreth turned away, trembling with fury. You humans, always willing to burn the galaxy to prove a point. You call that courage. I call it madness. Maybe, Hale said. But madness built us. You've ruled through fear for centuries, Queen. You've made slaves of worlds and silenced entire species. But there's one thing you never understood about us. He leaned forward. We don't fight to conquer. We fight so others don't have to. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the hum of the ship seemed to die. The queen's face twitched. Something ancient and painful flickered behind her eyes. And what do you expect of me, human? End it, Hale said. Free the worlds you hold. Stand down the fleets. Break the chains, or I will break them for you. Her claws scraped against the floor. "And if I refuse? Then we die here together," he said. "But your empire dies first." The fall of the queen. Hours passed in tense silence. The Vel'Kara fleets waited, their weapons trained, their generals restless. At last, a single command rippled through the Dominion comms. "Stand down." The queen stood before her throne, shoulders trembling, voice hollow. "Deactivate the conquest orders. Begin withdrawal from the occupied sectors. The Dominion ends." Her generals stared in disbelief. "My queen, you can't." "I can," she whispered. "Because the alternative is extinction." From across the void, Marcus Hale watched the fleets flicker out one by one. Massive warships powering down, banners of war folding, the Dominion's grip loosening. He gave a slow, tired nod. "It's done," he said. The Queen's voice reached him one last time. "You've won your justice, human. But know this. Your kind's mercy will not last forever. One day, another will rise." Hale's expression softened. "Then they'll face someone else like me." And with that the transmission ended. Moments later, the human dreadnought vanished into subspace, leaving behind only a ripple of gravitational distortion and silence. Epilogue. The name that stilled a queen. Weeks later, stories spread across the galaxy. The Dominion had fallen without a single shot fired. The Queen's fleets had returned home. The enslaved systems were free. None knew the truth, that one human soldier had stood before an empire and forced it to its knees. In her now empty palace, Queen Zyrith sat alone beneath the great crystal spire, staring at the fading reflection of her own eyes. A whisper escaped her. "Marcus Hale." It was not anger in her voice. Not even hatred. It was respect. Because she finally understood. Humans did not conquer because they sought power. They conquered because they refused to let evil rule unchecked. And in that she saw something divine. Something unstoppable. Something that could not be silenced.